So I'm so excited to give this webinar today. I've noticed that there's a big problem in the financial advisor world, and that's this. It's the idea of segmentation, or at least failure to segment. You're here today probably because you've heard about segmentation and you've heard stories about segmentation and they excite you, but when you hear a story, but there's no follow-up, like there's no roadmap to get there, or at least there's no one guiding you step by step through it. Maybe you've heard of a roadmap. I know IG really cares about segmentation and gives you lots of tools, but sometimes it's nice just to have somebody guiding you step by step through the process. Because when you hear great stories of segmentation, of people that have done it well, like they found a niche and they're so clear on their business, and you're like, oh, that would be so great to do that myself. But to not have the roadmap, you're just stuck. And that's so frustrating. And so if you're feeling like you're working too hard, or you're spinning your wheels, or you can't, develop systems, I honestly believe that segmentation is the answer to developing a thriving practice. So today I'm going to give you a teaser about why you should be segmenting, and then, kind of show you the path that I want to take you on. And then ultimately, we're going to hand it over to you to actually go out and do it. So I'm going to share my screen because I got some slides here. I wanted to become a segmentologist. That was like one of my goals, because I didn't know any segmentologists out there. The reason why is because I invented the word segmentology. But here it is. The segmentology really is like how to scale a practice by dominating a market. First, I want to share a story. I got 3 kids under 7, and so we are all about stories in the Morrison family. I love telling stories to my kids. I love sharing stories in presentations. And at 40 years old now, I get to do it with a bunch of professionals across Canada. So good luck, interpretation team, in this one, but I think you'll do just fine. It's a story of a young boy and his dad, and they had to go on a long journey about 100 kilometers away, and they could walk it, but they're like, you know what, we have this family donkey. The donkey has been faithful to us in the past. We're going to get there, taking the family donkey to kind of ease some of the burden of having to walk this large journey, especially with a kid. So they both jumped on the donkey and they went to embark on the journey. But soon enough, some of the other villagers, some of the people around them started to make fun of them. They were like, how dare they burden that donkey? 2 human beings on one donkey. This is unethical. We're going to make a complaint. And so they kind of said, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Like, maybe there's a better way to do this. And so they said, we're going to put the boy on the donkey, and then the older man, the father, can do some of the walking. So as they were doing it, they started to make some progress, but they came to another town and more villagers were making fun of them. They said, how dare that entitled young boy make his elderly father walk? What kind of kids are we raising today? This entitled generation. How dare they do? There's certainly a better way to do this. And so they said, well, the boy got off and he let his dad do some of the riding and he did some of the walking, until they came across some more villagers who said, how dare they, this old man make his boy walk? This is, abusive to your children. He certainly should be a servant as a parent. Like, what kind of parenting philosophy is he applying, that making the boy do all the hard work and the sweat while he gets a free ride? How dare they do this? So they couldn't really figure out what to do. So they kind of had to pause and think a bit. And they decided, well, maybe there's a better solution out there for us to take this journey with the donkey. And maybe we'll just have to carry the donkey ourselves. And certainly, they thought it was a good idea at first, but then after they're getting kicked and they realized the donkey is completely so heavy, this was not going to work. And so the donkey falling on its bum and running away quickly, to which the old man and the boy now had no donkey, and they were left to walk the great journey by their own. To which the moral of this story that I share is really certainly this: if you try to please everybody in both life and business, my friend, you can kiss your ass goodbye. This is my friend Grant. I've seen him kind of, start he was actually a mentor for me back in grade 10. And this was kind of the inspiration of why I wanted to share this with you, because I've watched Grant start with his career with Investors Group, low on the totem pole, and then slowly work his way up to be an executive financial consultant here in Abbotsford, where I live. The reason why I love Grant is because he's found a segment. Now, there was a time when he was more of a generalist. Like many of us, when we get started in business, we start off as a generalist in that we have a certain set of skills, and we want to help anybody that we can. Grant was kind of like that early on, right? He was kind of just willing to help anybody. He had a certain set of products that, coming out that he could offer, but these weren't high net worth individuals, and certainly not the kind that you could scale it around, scale a business around, a successful practice with multiple people. And so Grant, his wife was a nurse, and so had a natural connection to the medical field, and could get in conversations with people there. And so there was a real natural connection. Now, as he started to make those connections, realized that he could talk to more and more doctors, and had a very certain solution for them. And now Grant, who doesn't really like marketing, but is able to get new clients all the time based on his favorite marketing tool, which is the bicycle. This is not his actual bicycle, but it is a symbol of a marketing tool that is effectively working for Grant all the time. So on a Wednesday afternoon, Grant takes off into the British Columbian trails, and he'll go for a bike ride with his ideal client, his market segment, and he'll get into financial discussions with them, and he'll sign up new clients, and they'll invite their friends, and they'll go for bike rides together. And I just think this was, if everybody could do this, right? If everyone could experience marketing in a way that they actually loved and didn't despise, we got to get the roadmap for that. And so Grant is a very successful financial advisor, but he does it. He gets his success by targeting a niche and doing things that he loves. So imagine if that was your story as well. As I was researching for this webinar, I met another, family member of yours, Mr. Mark Ewert, who I really appreciated getting to interview him. But I really love Mark's story because he doesn't do mountain biking for his marketing. He gets to go for fancy dinners. So he'll put on dinners for people in Ontario at this particular company who are dealing with some questions of their pension and some complications of how do I do financial planning into retirement. And the cool thing about Mark is he just has these dinners, he answers their questions, and then talks to them about it, and then just solves one particular problem and then leads them to a solution. And that's all he does, right? He doesn't have to worry about, helping every single person that would call or need help. He just has one particular type of client. Even they work at one particular type of company with one particular type of problem, and Mark just solves that. So for these people, it's like a crisis for them, right? It's a once in a lifetime crisis. How do we manage our money into retirement? How do we work through these complicated pension plans? And Mark just says, I can help you. It's not a crisis for me. This is Thursday morning for my team and I. He's able to build a team around it so that he can build a practice that he is proud of, that can be generous, and it doesn't depend all on him. So these are the kind of segmentation success stories that I love to hear, and I want to help others with, because I understand that there's a ton of people in Investors Group right now that don't have a marketing or that don't have a segment, and you need to use the principles of segmentology to do this. So if you do this right, here's what I want you to walk away from. But if this is you, if this is something that you struggle with, you're not alone in it. And so you can maybe confess it or something that you're struggling with. But I want you to walk away from trying to help everyone. Do you ever feel like every single person that you meet, maybe at your kid's school or every family gathering, you need to help your old uncle or something, or every neighbor you're talking to, or every single community event that you're at, maybe you're at your kids' ice hockey games and you're thinking, maybe there's potential clients here. Am I on? Do I have to dress up all professional for every single opportunity that I leave the house because there might be a future client there? That's a ton of stress, right? Trying to be everything to everyone. So I don't want you to be spread thin. I want you to know exactly when you're supposed to be on, to know when you're working, to know where you're supposed to be going, because trying to help everybody is a lost cause. You're never going to be able to do it. There's too many people in your community. There's too many people in your province. There's too many people across Canada. You need to be specific. I want you to walk away from the burden of thinking that you have to be everything to everyone. Then feeling FOMO, trying to be everywhere. So not only have to be everything to everyone, you got to be everywhere, meaning like, oh, there's a community fundraiser. Do I have to support that one? But at the other side of town, there's another community fundraiser, or there's an event that's going on. Do I have to show up to be a part of that? There might be future clients there. And then if you can't be everywhere, you're never going to be anywhere. at the same time. So you're feeling constant fear of missing out. Grant, in my earlier story, knows that he doesn't have to be biking on all trails at all times. Physically impossible, and he'd never get any work done. But if he knows that he can show up on a particular Wednesday afternoon with his bike at that place, that there's going to be ample opportunity for his to meet more of his ideal client. Okay, so that's what I want you to walk away from. And also, I want you to avoid being a commodity in your area of expertise. I'm sure you've been watching some of the commercials these days, but the value of financial advisors is being questioned, right? Obviously, not news to you, but certainly in the marketplace, people are saying, how much are we paying for our financial advisor? How much are we paying for dad's guy that we were told about? What are their fees? This is not the place that you want to be, as you know that already, right? You don't want to be a commodity where people are trying to find the lowest fees for your services. In fact, the opposite. I want you to be able to charge the highest fees because you offer the most value. You solve such a valuable problem for people that they will not even worry about the cost because you are so helpful for them, whether it's the kind of service you offer, the expertise that you offer. In Mark's story, he was the only one in town solving one particular problem. And because the problem was so tough for people, so complicated, Mark was able to solve that problem for them so that they never worried about how much was it, because he was the only person in town, right? You want to be what's called a category of one, where there's only one person, and then you could charge any fee that you want. I also want you to walk away from despising marketing. I don't know if you're out there, but marketing just isn't your thing. You know, it's a heavily regulated, it's tough to get compliance. I totally understand. And it's difficult when marketing is only, social media presence, your website, and maybe some newsletter or something. If it's just that, if that's all you're doing for marketing, it's going to be very tough because it's slow, it's regulated, it's a tough process. I understand why the compliance things are there and the regulations are. I totally get it. But there's a different way to do marketing. What if marketing was going for a fancy dinner or going for a bike ride or sponsoring a community event that you just felt great about being a part of, right? That is another way to do marketing. So I don't want you to despise marketing or see it as just another expense of your time and your money and you're flushing it down the toilet. I want you to have, effective marketing that produces a significant return on your time and your money as an investment. If you're spending a ton of time spinning your wheels too, this is what I want you to walk away from. I don't want you to be spinning your wheels just trying to think of new solutions to new problems, right? If you're a generalist and you're helping 10 different types of people, then you're solving 10 different types of problems. It's going to cut into your time at nighttime. It's going to cut into your family time. You're going to be on your phone too much. You're just going to be working way too hard because you're trying to help everybody, and everybody has diverse array of problems. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to solve one problem, or maybe just a couple of problems that you and your team have managed to figure out so it's so easy for you that you just do it on autopilot. It's going to save you time. It's going to save you time on your phone. It's going to give you more freedom to do the things that you love. And maybe you have a hard time creating systems and training staff. Why is that? Because your client base is so random that you become random and your staff never know which you is going to show up, right? Are you the tax planner? Are you the retirement person? Are you the mutual fund person? Are you the person that works with athletes? Are you the type of person that works with doctors? Are you the type of person that works, with pensioners? What is it that you do? No one really knows because it changes every single day of the week. So as a result, it's very difficult to train a staff in a system because it's a new company every single day, right? You come back from a conference, you do some CE credits, you change the company overnight. This makes it very difficult to build a team. If you want to move like that, then be okay with working alone. But I would prefer that you would set up a clear system and a team that could do the system so that the whole practice doesn't depend on you, and you can actually start to step away and have more freedom. And the only way to do that is to have a clear system. And the way to have a clear system is to have a clear segment. That's why segmentation is so important. And with the right segment, think of the opposite of those things. You could have a clear target and understanding of who you help. So you know who it is that you target as your market segment, and you know how you help them. Secondly, you know where they show up, right? These are the type of people who act a certain way and show up in these kind of places. These are the things they like to do. And so you know exactly where you're supposed to be. And when you say yes to that place, you have a strong no to other places. You don't have to be everywhere. You don't have fear of missing out. So you know where to go to get results. And I love this. You could be the sought after expert in your industry. So people aren't saying, well, the other guy charges a little bit less, maybe I should go with them. It's like, no, they come after you because they know that you are the best. You are the person in your industry, and they come to you and they're excited to pay you for it. Enjoying marketing that gets results. Imagine if you actually loved marketing. How great would that be to know that every hour or dollar that you spend is going to get a 10x return. Using your time efficiently is also great. So you're not spending tons of hours doing research on all these different problems. You just know how to solve this one problem, and you do it so well, you can do it efficiently and quickly, quicker than anyone else that's just learning about that thing for the first time. Let me just share with you a little bit of my story, because I think it's important for you to know, where I come from in this. So I'm an entrepreneur, self-employed, survived COVID being self-employed. And the reason why I think I love sharing about this is because I'm a living case study in segmentation gone well. Again, it's not necessarily that I start off saying, I need to have a marketing segment and I need to lead this to its conclusion. I just kind of stumbled in it. So let me just share you that story. So 6 years ago, I used to be working in the nonprofit sector, and then like a board decision kind of shut me out, and I was off on my own. Had 2 kids to feed and a mortgage to pay, and we still like to eat and stuff. And my wife and I wanted to do like have some kind of a life. So I had to work hard in the beginning. And that's why I said in the early days of, I just understood the power of story, and I liked marketing. So I just kind of pursued that. But now that I look back, deep down, there was really 4 things that I had to pursue. The 4 freedoms, I would say, of the self-employed entrepreneurial lifestyle. And the 4 freedoms are this: the freedom of time. I just wanted to be in control of my own schedule. So I wanted to go into the office when I wanted to. I wanted to be around for my kids so that, so they could understand that dad was around, and I wanted to be an engaged dad. So time was important to me. And you know this too, right? That's probably why you got into this. You didn't work at a bank or, some other big company, but you chose a lifestyle that was going to give you some time. And that was important to me. And so purpose also, I wanted to do something that I believed in, and helping other entrepreneurs and helping small businesses grow. I believe small business is the core of our society. And when small businesses flourish, everyone flourishes. The owners flourish. They fight less with their spouse. They have more time for their kids. They have more freedom, and they can employ people. So purpose was important to me as well. I wanted to do something that I aligned with, and helping those entrepreneurs and small businesses was important to me. And then money, having the money to be able to do vacations, to be able to live a generous lifestyle, and to just have fun and to enjoy experiences. And that's important for me. I know it's important for you as well. You don't want to just do this as a charity. You want to make money as well. And then fourthly, freedom of relationship. I wanted to be able to invest in the relationships that I wanted to, and to have the freedom to do that. So time and relationship and the money and the purpose kind of all go together. I borrowed those from Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach, if you're wondering where did I get that framework from. So those values were core to me. And so I kind of stepped out and built this marketing company using a framework that I got from Don Miller, building a story brand. And so it wasn't long before these other guys, they heard about building a story brand. They wanted to work with a guide. I had a Facebook group about story brand, and this chiropractor from Colorado joined. And the interesting thing is he said, you're teaching a lot of people in this Facebook group. Would you mind joining my chiropractor friends and I as we do, talk about story brand? We're really curious in the book. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And it was so early, I didn't even charge for it. I was like, I'm just happy to talk about story brand principles and how to market better and how to be clear in your message and some of the other things that went along with what the book taught. So I joined this webinar, and it was later at night, and it went a little bit long, and I wasn't very Canadian. Like I was kind of like saying like, your website sucks, your messaging's not clear, you're missing out on opportunities. And they took it, and the meeting went, like I said, a bit long, and I shut off the Zoom meeting, and I went over to have a late dinner with my wife, and she goes, how did it go? And I went, you know what, I think it went okay from my part, except I think I pissed off a bunch of American chiropractors, and I'll probably never see them again because they were just faces on a Zoom call. So let's eat, and let's eat with a good conscience, knowing I did my best for the day. Well, it was the next day that I started to get emails from some of those faces that were on the call. And they were like, John, that was great. We loved it. Can you do that exact same thing on my podcast? I have a podcast of 3,000 American chiropractors, and this is what we're all about. Would you share those principles on my podcast? Now, the guy said, I've got a Facebook group of 10,000 chiropractors from all around North America. Would you be a part of our group? And would you answer some of those questions that you talked about? And then, we have this conference and we'd like to maybe have you as a speaker. A third guy was a podcast host as well, with a slightly different focus, but still helping chiropractors. So you could see that instantly, just because of this one webinar I did, which was connected to a Facebook group that I was running, led me to all of a sudden become some sort of, story brand guru or marketing guru with chiropractors. And as we were going through, I started to learn some of their idiosyncrasies. I learned what was important to them. I could speak a little bit of their language, and was invited to speak at some of their events. I was at an event in St. Louis. I ran into a company that I actually grew up as friends with them in Vancouver here, and they were doing healthcare booking. And they saw what I was talking about. Like, our clients, we have thousands of clients at their websites, they suck. And we want to partner with someone who's going to get them great websites. We're able to integrate with the software. So you can imagine, it was just such a good partnership as we could work together. Now, they were amazing referral partners. And when they got a good significant investment through COVID, when it came time to acquire a company, they look to us. And so I just realized the entrepreneurial dream of having the freedom of time, purpose, money, and relationships was actually accomplished in my life. And I never saw any of it coming. I just stumbled through from opportunity to opportunity. But then, and since now I had a little bit of time, I was like, I need to learn how this happened, because I want to create a playbook for people, a roadmap for anyone else who wanted to do it. Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are just struggling. They don't have time. They feel like they're selling out their purpose to just help anybody. They're working too hard and not making enough money, and the relationships are suffering. That's my story. And so I went back to school. I already had a master's degree, but I wanted to get an MBA to learn business principles with a focus on how to segment well. And so I share that whole story just so you could see, I'm so passionate about this, because not only have I lived it, I've experienced how great it is to be able to take vacations, to build a team, to have a product that solves a big problem for people with a very clear audience. And I'm super excited to share it with you. So let's go back to our slides now. And I just want to share with you the 10 reasons for segmentation. The reason I do that is because I really want to hammer you with the importance of it. Okay, so we have 10 reasons to segment. The reason why I'm going to go through it is because if I don't make this so painfully clear that you need to do this, you might just say, it's just another webinar, or, oh yeah, it's another offering from IJ University. It's like, no, this is the future. This is the reason to free up your time, to free up the purpose so you can do the things that you love every single day, to make you the money and the impact that you want, so you can have the life that you've always wanted. So segmentation, to me, as I talk to people like Grant Strachan, as I talk to people like Mark Ewart, and I talk to other people who've done it well, we'll meet them later in the fall. This is the reason why we do it, is because you can achieve the life and lifestyle and the income and impact that you've always wanted if you just do this. So let me tell you 10 reasons why I think you need to segment. The first one is to stay close to the market. So sometimes I think that we choose segments and we don't know anything about them. And sometimes they don't even pay, right? It's more of a volunteer position. And that's okay. That's cute for a while, but it's going to eventually get you in trouble with your spouse, I think, who, wants to eat, and your kids that want their mom and dad around. Okay, so I want you to stay close to a market. The reason why is because the market will tell you where there's a demand. Right? We have this problem in this world that it is a broken world. People don't have all the information they need. Sometimes they have some information, but it's the wrong information. They're lonely. They have a need for information, but they have no one to go to. They have no trusted guide who's going to help them solve a problem. And their problems are numerous. But if there's no major problem, or without a person connected to that problem, there's no market there. Okay, so I've heard all kinds of ideas of people who wanted to find a segment, but the problem is the segment wasn't actually asking for it. So you'll notice in my story personally, what I got pulled into a segment, and sometimes you can't choose yourself into a segment, you get pulled into a segment because there's a bunch of people who are screaming saying, we need a solution to this problem. Sometimes you can choose your segment, but really you have to experience your way into it. Either way, you have to either choose it and then walk into it, or you get pulled into it. But the market is going to tell you whether or not this is a good business idea or not for you. And so you segment because you don't want to just, go through every single idea, and you're going to waste too much time on things where there's no market. So I want you to stay close to the market, because where the market is, that's where the money is, and that's where the fulfillment is, because people are going to have problems that you could solve. I want you to work only with people you love. Imagine if you could clone your favorite clients. So you have people you light up when they book calls with you. You get all excited, you get dressed up, you put on your suit with pride. You're so excited to meet with them. Contrast that to the other people you see, like, oh, I can't believe I'm going to get dressed up for this. This is going to be such a waste of time. You're dreading it all day. Maybe you're even dreading it all week. From the moment it shows up in your calendar, you're like, oh, I'm not looking forward to this. You do not want to live a life where you're full of people, clients like that. You want to work with people you love, and then have a system that clones those people, so that the people you love working with hang out with people you love working with, and they rave about you. Okay, so that's, I get this actually from a guy named Jay Baer, who wrote a book called Talking Points. And the thesis of his book was so interesting. He said, if you think about it, your favorite clients you're working with did not come probably through social media posts. They didn't come from a Google ad. They didn't come necessarily from a newsletter. They came from a referral. And if 80% of our best clients come from referrals, then how come we don't have a referral strategy that makes it intentional to get our favorite people talking about us so they can find more of our favorite people? So I want you to work only with the people you love, and I don't want you to work with people you don't love working with. Life's too short for that. So cloning your favorite client, that's why we segment. We know exactly who we work with, and so we want more of our favorite and less of our non-favorite. Creating a consistent message. This is one thing that I have to, every time I meet with a new client, when I've got my marketing hat on, I say, okay, if we're going to create a website, we need to put some words on that website. And what words should we choose? Well, there's a lot of English words out there, and my French friends are learning, it's hard to make a translation sometimes of those English words, but we have to pick some words. And so if you're going to choose from all the thousands of English words or French words, depending on who your ideal client is, you're going to need to say something, and you're going to want to be consistent. So you can't just say everything. You have to say something, and you want it to be clear to the people that you're trying to reach. I got a chance to study in England for a year, and there was this place called Hyde Park in London. We famously know it as Speaker's Corner. And Speaker's Corner is just a collection of anybody with an axe to grind. Speaker's Corner gives them a soapbox to share their thoughts or beliefs or philosophy or whatever it is that they're ticked off about or passionate about. They can share it openly and freely at Speaker's Corner. The problem is that London is a very I guess it's a good thing that London is so multicultural and multilingual that, you have all these people shouting different things on different times. This is a good example of what the internet is like, right? It's a very busy, shouty kind of place. And it's only getting busier and shoutier as content becomes more and more easy with the rise of AI, right? So if you don't, if you just show up at Speaker's Corner, you're never going to hear anything because everybody's saying everything at the same time. But I think effective communication says, if I could just take a certain group of people that I know their language, I know what they're interested in, I know their pain points, I know what they want in life, and I'm going to pull them aside and just talk to them quietly and intentionally, I'm going to be a lot more effective as a communicator than just trying to reach everybody. So in these initial marketing meetings, I'm always amazed with how few people have a clear, ideal segment that they know when it's time to pick some words to talk about what I do, whether it be as an elevator pitch across the fence to a friend, or at a networking event, or wherever, putting words on a website. We need to have something to say. And when you know who your segment is, you're much more effective in how you say what you say, because you're not trying to reach everybody, but you're very clear on who you're helping. We're going to talk, we spend a whole session in one of the modules in the fall on this very point, how to create a clear and consistent message for your ideal client. And then strategic effective marketing. I kind of mentioned this, right? You don't have to be everywhere, but you can be strategic in where you choose to market and how you choose to market and where you spend your dollars, because you don't just want to be throwing money everywhere hoping that it's effective somewhere. You want to say, no, every dollar I put in this particular spot turns into $10. And so I want to do that over and over again. That's strategic, effective marketing rather than random acts of marketing, which is what most of us do, which is just kind of throwing marketing energy and time and dollars everywhere and hoping that it lands somewhere that works. And we never really know. It's hard to track. Strategic, effective, on the other hand, we know exactly when I do this, it creates this kind of result. That's what I want for you. Save time by scaling your processes, right? So now all of a sudden you're having a certain way that we solve a problem. And now because we have written it down, we've maybe named it or something, and we can know that this is how we do, this is how we solve problems for people. And we're saving our time because we're not reinventing the wheel every single new client. We're not like, struggling to say, okay, how do I solve this new problem? And then the next day you wake up and I have to solve this new problem for this type of client. Instead, you can say, we solve, this is the problem that we solve. This is how we solve it. And then you can start to scale that and say, I can teach someone else to do that. I'll show you how to do this in a couple of minutes here. Delivering consistent, outstanding results. This would be my hope for you, is that you're not just worried, like, what if this doesn't work out? Like, what if this process, all this time that and energy we're putting into this client, what if it doesn't work? I don't want that for you to have to worry about that kind of fear or anxiety. And I don't want that for your clients either, to have the person that they're hiring, that they're trusting to guide them, doesn't know the way. Right? Imagine if you hired a person to guide you up Everest, right? And they've never done it before. And they're like, well, I know some other mountains. I know the way up Kilimanjaro, and I know the way, up in Whistler. I've done hikes there, but I've never done Everest before. So, I'm just going to see if I can figure out the way as we go, right? That not only is the guide anxious, but you're very anxious to know that they've never solved this. Whereas you hire the person that just does the same path every single time. That's my person that I'm going to trust. I see a hand raised. We're going to get to questions in just a few seconds here. So hang on to that, or actually put them in the chat maybe, and then we'll create a little, we'll get through some questions near the end. But if you have a question, put it in the Q&A, because I'd love to hear from you and how you're dealing with this or processing everything. Okay, I want you to become a C-list celebrity. Why would you want to become a C-list celebrity? Well, you've seen what happens to A-list celebrities. It's not going well for them, right? To have paparazzi every time you go to a restaurant, and you're constantly swarmed, and you hate the crowds after a while because the very thing that you used to like, you used to be appealed by, the glitz, the glamour of celebrity culture, all of a sudden turns on you, and you're depressed, and you're trying to hide, and you can never feel like you're yourself ever. A-list celebrity, I don't want anything to do with that. I've seen what happened to Harry and Meghan, and I don't, that's not my desire for myself or for you. Even a B-list celebrity, right? Let's say you hit it on a sitcom, like, oh, it'd be so nice to be on Yellowstone and enjoy that, all the fanfare of being on a hit sitcom. Still don't want that for you. Why? Because you're still going to be too busy, and it's going to be, you're going to get mobbed wherever you go out to a sports game. You're going to think maybe you like it for a while, but then eventually you're not going to want it. I don't think many of the people on the call today, if given the chance, would want to become a B-list celebrity. So you're not, former royalty. You're just kind of famous in the mass market. I don't think you want that. Maybe you do want it, but if you had it for a couple of years, maybe you wouldn't. But a C-list celebrity, now that is the sweet spot. Why do you want to be a C-list celebrity? Because C-list celebrities get invited to speak in places. They get invited to box seats when there's a sports game in town. They get invited to be on a podcast. They get they get a crowd around them at a conference, and then when everything's over, they walk away into total anonymity. Right? C-list celebrities are great because they can walk into a place and get their ego stroked, and they feel like an expert, and they feel competent and confident because these are the people that I serve, and they're wanting me to talk, and they know I'm valuable. They're happy that I'm there, and they want to shake my hand or get a picture with me. And then I walk out and they completely ignore me. That's the kind of celebrity that I want you to be, because they still get paid well. They still get validation. They're still happy about their job. And they get largely ignored when they're outside of that environment. So put your hand up if that's the life that you want. Segmentation is the road to get there. I assure you of that. Number ninth reason why I think it's important to segment is your practice becomes more valuable and attractive. So if you have like, as your book of business is like your uncle and your neighbors and some guy that you were, your kids used to be friends with, and you would just talk to them at school pickup or drop off. It's just this random assortment of people that you've collected over the years. I mean, good on you for helping them. They had a problem and they were struggling. But when somebody wants to buy your practice and pick up your book of business, it's not going to be as valuable or attractive to them if you have a scattering of people that you've just been collecting over the years. But imagine if you could say, I have these 50 doctors that I've been nurturing and helping and caring for, and maybe that person is also helping doctors. And now they could double their business with just acquiring your book. And now they have a focused, simple business. The opposite would be they're just trying to, figure out all the different relationships that you had with your generalist practice. So you would better believe that a practice that is more focused on a certain segment is far more valuable and attractive when somebody wants to purchase your book of business when you're ready to retire or move on in some way. And so that's, again, what I want for you. It's the ninth reason why we segment. And 10thly, having a really rewarding career. Wouldn't it be great to look back at the end of your career? And I mean, it would be fun to say that I served everybody and that would be great. But to actually have a very focused look and say, this particular industry or this company I served, or this is the problem that I solved. And you could look back at all the different names and faces and the stories. You did it effectively. You were able to scale it. You were able to employ people. Because you were able to scale it, you gave people really rewarding jobs. You put food on the table of other Canadians throughout the year and throughout the decades. And you could look back and say, I spent a lot of time on that work of mine, and I want to be able to, and I can look back and say, I feel like it was rewarding, like it was worth it. We spend like a third of our lives at work. Wouldn't you love to be very proud of the work that you did because you move the needle in a particular industry or with a typical type of person, and you brought other people along for the journey and you made an impact and a difference in their lives? To me, that's an incredibly rewarding life and something you can look back on and be proud of when you survey the work that you did near the end of your life. Those are my 10 reasons, my friends. I want to check the time to make sure we are doing well. We are still on time. Things are going well. I want to pause for a moment and just see. I want to check the chat here to see how everyone is doing. Looks like it's pretty quiet, which means you're thinking deeply about this. That's my hope. And I want to see if we have any questions. Just again, feel free to use that, to use the questions and take advantage of the opportunity, because in a few minutes here, I'm going to be able to jump on and kind of talk about how we apply this. All right, so let's go to the roadmap to do this. And so I have what's called the segmentation action plan. And if you can figure out this action plan, then you will be a strong segmentologist. And I want that for you. I want you to join. Right now, there's only one segmentologist because I invented the word. But if you can do this, then you can become a segmentologist as well, which is an expert in segmentation. I would imagine that there would be other people who are experts in segmentation, but maybe they just haven't been awarded the honorary degree of segmentologist. So if you want to do that, there's 5 things. So let's say you love those 10, you want to walk away from trying to be everything to everyone, to despising marketing. You want to walk towards having a scalable business and that you love, that you find rewarding. Here's the 5 things that you need to do. 5 things. Audit your clients, identifying the ones that you love most. Number 2, you want to identify the complicated problem that they will pay to solve. Number 3, I want you to master a system that solves it for them. Number 4, teach others and automate the whole system so that it can work without you. And 5, do marketing you love with the people you like. You don't have to love all the people that you do marketing for, but it would be really helpful and a lot more fun if you actually like them. So these are the 5 things. Let's go through these one by one. Now, if you've been, with IG for longer than 2 weeks, I would hope that you have a few clients now, right? That you have some experience. And if you don't have any clients, it's going to be fun to get to client number 1, because now you can start to, audit them and say, like, what was my experience like working with them? So first step is to apply the art and science of auditing your client list. Well, it's an art because it's a subjective thing, right? This is actually where I want you to think about your experiences that you've had with the clients that you've been collecting so far, because you have a body of work that you can draw on. And again, if you don't have any clients yet, your first client is gonna be coming. And so maybe you can actually save some time by just saying, I'm going to think about, the kind of people that I want to serve. But like the vets, the seasoned vets, they need to do this as well, because what I'm not doing is I'm not telling you to go through your list and start firing clients. There may be some clients you need to that are like literally dead weight and holding you back. But I think probably by this point, you've got a lot of them working on autopilot as well, and you're ready to take the next step in your business. Or maybe you want to break into a new segment, right? You've mastered the generalist segment and you want to take a new step. And now you want to maybe bring on some new people to take on and focus on another segment, a segment you've already had some success with as well. So there's an art to this, and art is subjective. So believe me, like I'm asking you to reflect on your experiences, on the things that you like, maybe even what triggered certain emotions in you, what got you fired up and what got you frustrated. But there's also a science too. And so the science is part of, like, we're going to give it some numbers, we're going to give it some metrics, and we're going to test some markets to see if there's actually an opportunity here to build a thriving practice. All right, so I maybe want to give a little bit of credit here. No, I shouldn't say a lot of credit, a little bit of time to give a lot of credit to the Investors Group team, who's really set you guys up with some segmentation principles. So there's so many tools that IG has, and I've just had to look through them. I've got the chance to look through them. So thank you, Valerie, for letting me see how important this is for you guys. You may already have some tools. I just want to give you, maybe an interpretation of them, or just, boil it down to these 5 things. Okay, so I want you to kind of think through your client list. Or, you can even print off an Excel sheet of your client list and then put 5 headings there. Enjoyment is the first one. Results is the second. Income is the third. Connectedness or influence is the fourth. And scalability is the fifth. Let's just quickly go through these 5. Okay, so enjoyment. Did I like working with the person? Did I enjoy meeting with them? Do I like getting into their life? Do I light up and get excited to get dressed up when they call and for a meeting, or do I try to hide and screen their calls and I don't want to talk to them? That the latter would be a 1, and enjoyment in like really liking them would be a 5. Okay, so think about your client list and then give them a number 1 through 5 on your spreadsheet. Secondly is results. Was I able to solve the problem for them? Did they get a return on their time and their money? Are they happy with me? Did they write an outstanding review or something? Or are they referring to other people? Do they call me and do they say, hey, I'm so thankful for you and I appreciate the time that you took? Or on the opposite, do they when I see them at the mall, they jump away, or, and they see me carrying groceries, they slam the milk down and because they're so mad, right? Or do they never talk to me anymore? That's a 1. But great results. I loved working with them. That would be a 5. So now you're starting to see a trend here. The next would be income. Is that, do they have income? So you could go 1 through 5, maybe even based on a guess. You might have some numbers there as you do, as you onboard your previous clients, you'll ask their income, or their income. But, low level income would be a 1, and then high net worth would be a 5. And you can decide what those numbers are, the brackets. But give them a 1 through 5, and that's basically like, are they able to pay me? Because again, you can set up a charity or some sort of volunteer role for people that need help with low income, but it's going to be tough to create a thriving business with people that either don't want to pay you or cannot pay you. So where are they in the income? Connectedness and influence. Actually, maybe just say this, because there are some really great people out there that don't really care about the income, right? And maybe your ideal client can't afford it. And so just think about, either you can skip this one and take 5 points off the total, or you can just say, this one doesn't really matter, and obviously their score is going to take a hit. But you got to decide on how important is income for it. I would say it's very important if you want to set up a business that with other people that you pay, right? Because unless you can unless you want to volunteer and encourage other people to volunteer, it's going to be very tough if the income is not high enough. And then connectedness and influence. Does this person have any friends, right? Do they like to talk? Do they bring in referrals? Are they a potential source of referrals? And are people like them a potential source of referrals? And so that's important because you want to be able to grow the business with people like them. Remember, I said how important it is to clone your clients. Well, this is where it comes down to. Are they clonable? Are they connected? Do they have other people like them? And so what would you say on from 1 to 5? 1 is like there's just one of them, party of one, and 5 would mean they're very connected and have lots of influence in the community. And there's a potential there that if that one hits, you have great results with a connected person, great things are going to happen in your segment. Finally, scalability. Are there enough people like them around that if, not just them, but in their industry or with that particular problem, are there enough people there that you can create a thriving practice around it? Now, again, you don't need a million people like this. You just need enough to create a great business for you and your team. So scalability, is there a market for that? So let's take Mark Ewart's situation where he was working with a particular company. If it was a tiny little company, right, maybe only like 10 employees, and they all had a similar problem, but they all had friends, but he wanted to just solve a particular problem for a particular company, there's not enough there. There's not enough scalability. But if the company is actually a couple of thousand people and you become the person, then scalability is very much possible. So there's a little bit of subjectivity here, but at the same time, you can see that if the company is too small that you're helping, that you want to just help those employees, then they're going to get a 1. But if the company is big that you solve a problem for, then they're going to get a 5 because there's lots of potential there. The other thing too is, can you solve a similar problem for another company of equitable size? Well, now actually the scalability can go up. Maybe you're helping very small businesses, but there's enough small businesses out there that you can help them. So you got to think about that. But now you're going to start to have some numbers. I want you to add them up and just, what raises eyebrows to you? What did you learn scientifically now that you have some metrics here? Which are the front runners? Obviously, we'd have to consider Joe Smith and then Joey Williams as potential for ideal clients because their scores are very high out of 25. So once you figured out the type of person that you really love working with, that you're going to get great results for, they're going to help you grow your business by telling others, and there's room to grow. Now you're going to start to say, what is the common problem that I solve for them? And this comes right out of Mark Ewart's playbook. Okay, this point came from him where he said, I just realized that there was no one else in town that was solving this particular problem for these people. So they had no guide, they had no one to help them, and this was a huge struggle for them. And Mark all of a sudden saw this opportunity. In fact, he would say that he was pursuing another segment at the time, and then somebody raised a hand and said, Mark, can you help me with this one? And then he realized that not only could he solve that problem or learn to solve the problem for them when it came to their pension, but that they said, well, thank you so much for helping me. Can you help me? Because my friend has this very same problem. And it's too complicated. We can't figure it out on our own. We don't know who to turn to. And so Mark just became an expert at solving a particular complicated problem. And maybe it was tough for him at first, but maybe it wasn't. But the good news is that he was able to set up a system to help them solve that problem. And now all of a sudden he just says, I know the people and I know the problem. So figure out the complicated problem that you solve for people. Just the one example that I've been told is find the people with the bleeding neck. Okay, so if you're an ideal client, let's say you're a doctor and you're like, I just help people with paper cuts, right? Or I help people with, just moderately sore shoulders. It's like, well, if you have a paper cut or a sore shoulder, it's not something that people are going to drop everything to go and solve. But if you've got a bleeding neck, right, that is a 911 call, and you'll take anybody who's going to help you, right? Because you have such a big problem, and if not addressed, it's going to lead to death, just to put it bluntly. So find people with a bleeding neck problem, because they're going to be hungry to find help. And that's just that's what Mark did. It was a complicated problem that he could solve, and then just found more and more people in the similar location with that problem. And so that's the second step, is what is the problem that you solve for people? And again, for them, it's a crisis. For you, Thursday morning, no problem. Thirdly, is now that you've got the problem in place, I want you to map out the system that you use to solve that problem. So I want you to write a big A on one side of your paper, and I want you to write a B on the other side of the paper. And what is the steps that people take from A to B? Okay, so A to B, and then, you know, if A is where they are and B is where they want to go, what do you do to get them from A to B? Let's just map that out here. Okay, let's just say this is a typical situation with a client. First is the marketing. It could be anything from a bike ride to a dinner to a social media post on LinkedIn, or something where they see you and they reach out to you, whether it be a cold message or a handshake or a call or a text or a email introduction, whatever it is, that introduction that gets when you first hear from that person. And then probably some sort of first meeting. You want to show up, you want to talk to them, you want to hear their story, you want to connect with them, and then leads to a survey, right? Like, this is like, what's your income, what are your goals, what's your risk tolerance, stuff like that. And all of a sudden they want to become a client. Now you're into the setup phase, you're onboarding them, sending them mounds and mounds of paperwork. Maybe sometimes it's digital now, but you're getting them set up, and lots of administration, and getting them the products that they want, and getting them approvals, and all kinds of work that happens during that setup stage. Ongoing communication. This is just like, do you prefer to text your clients? Do you prefer in-person meetings? Do you do Zoom meetings? What do you do to keep your clients informed with what's going on, both in their portfolio, in the market? You know, how do you talk to them? Check-ins would be things like birthdays and anniversaries or renewals, whatever it is that you need to kind of show up to remind people that you're still there, that you're still helping, that you're still valuable to them. And then maybe upselling new opportunities with them as they grow, as they, things become more complicated, maybe as they retire. You're dripping little new ideas with them with check-ins, and then the new opportunity comes when they sign on for another product with you. So this is kind of how we do it around here, right? In my experience talking to my financial advisor friends, and you know what, it goes across industries as well. But this is kind of like, if you were to write an A to B, this is kind of how it is, right? Very successful, that they're pursuing new opportunities with you because they're so happy with their existing services and products that they have with you. Go all the way back to that very first touch that they got from you, whether it be an introduction or something. This is kind of how a typical situation would go to develop a happy client from a stranger. All right, and then you can start to say, okay, if this is how we do it, this is how we solve a particular problem for people, then what are some of the things that we could do to kind of make it a little easier for us, or a little less cumbersome, and still get the same result, right? So we're not changing the result. We're still selling new products and growing the portfolio with a particular client. We're getting more share of wallet with them. But the truth is, you didn't love the whole thing, right? There's some things that you just, you can't do it all. You can't do it. Nobody is gifted to offer the entire array of services that you offer. So I want you to start to take a little bit of inventory about your system that you've created. Some of the things you love, some of the things you didn't like. So now you can start to say, well, some of the things I have to do. And I love what Mike Michalowicz talks about in the, he talks about the queen bee role, right? And it's a clockwork. I'm like totally blanking here. I hate when I blank on books. Mike Michalowicz, if you search on Google clockwork and Mike Michalowicz, you're going to find this a great example in his book where he talks about there's a queen bee role. And the queen bee role, like with bees, they know that the most important person in the hive, in the family, in the community is the queen bee. The queen bee is responsible for one main role to keep everything flourishing. And so all the bees work together to make sure that queen bee role gets done. And so it is at first, in the early days, you're going to say, there's some things that I need to do. I need to be there. I need to suit up, show up, and do my thing. And maybe it's in the first meeting, or maybe it's in the ongoing communication or something, but there's something that I have to do to make, like, it's, in business, we call it the unique value proposition. So I need to be there at first, because it's my practice, it's my responsibility. They're hiring me at first. I'm the UVP, the unique value proposition. I'm the queen bee. I need to make sure I'm there. But all the other things, because I've done so good with the queen bee role and delivered so much value there, and no one else is doing it in town, that now I can get away with outsourcing some of the things. Now, sometimes I'm outsourcing to processes like automations, like my CRM, which creates triggers. When this happens, trigger this set of emails. Or it triggers my assistant, and my assistant takes care of some things. Or maybe the robots are doing it now with all the rise of AI tools. It's not long before robots can do a better job than humans can do. Of course, you got to be compliant and make sure everything's done above board with authenticity. But I guarantee you that if this is a successful client journey from A to B, from marketing all the way to new opportunities where you have lots of happy clients telling others about how great you are and wanting more business, to do more business with you, there's got to be some steps in there that you can sub other people in. And here's the thing, you can only do this if you have a clear ideal client and a clear process from A to B. Because if you're inventing this thing all the time, it's very tough to automate, right? So eventually we're going to actually start putting some emails in, and we're going to start, we're going to master this system that solves a problem. And I'm just going to get here. This is what we're going to do. This is the fourth step. We're actually going to teach others and automate it so that the work can be done without you. But you can only do it if you have followed steps 1 through 3 first, where you have a clear segment, because the content and the solutions that you're going to offer are dependent on the clarity you have at the very beginning. So now let's say, for just one example, we want to automate this process here with a 5 email welcome. So as soon as you get that first email meeting with them, now you want to share a little bit more about who you are. Now you could write personal emails like, "Dear John, it was such a pleasure to meet with you. I'm so excited about your portfolio and all that. Here's something that I'm excited about as a financial advisor, and what I care about you." You could write all that out for the first time. Now you're spending a lot of time, probably at night, probably missing out on opportunities to hang out with your spouse or partner or kids. Maybe you could be elsewhere doing something else that you enjoy, but now you're hammering out emails to your clients. And then you want to do it again because you don't want the email to be super long. So you cut it off. You're like, I'm going to send a little bit more of this in a couple of days. There's more I want to tell them about working with us, but I don't want this email to be a novel. It'll never get read. I want it to be short. And so I'm going to write again another one. Well, imagine if you could just send those emails automated. So they're getting emails, you're communicating with them, and it's happening in a trigger of events over a few days. And then all of a sudden, the survey comes at a certain point where now you're onboarding them. They've said yes, they like what you're offering. And so you're like, well, I don't need to send the survey because someone else can do it. And so that's where an assistant could come in. But the assistant needs to know, like, what product is this that we're selling? What is it that we're doing? And now if they're calling you and saying, I don't know, who is this person? What are they all about? What's their background? Now it's taking time from you again. So you're having to tell them, this is the problem that we're solving. It just takes way too much time. It's very hard to scale. But if you can do all these things, start putting processes in place where automations are triggered and other people are involved, now you can be somewhere else on the beach in Jamaica, hanging out with your family or doing whatever you want to do. And the whole thing is working because you have a very clear A and you have a very clear B, and you know how to put people through the process. That, my friends, is the only way to scale a practice. Otherwise, it's all dependent on you. You are the dancing monkey who has to show up every single time for the business to move forward. And I just think you can't scale a practice that way. You can't enjoy the 4 freedoms of time because you're using up all your time trying to serve everybody in every kind of way. You're not enjoying the purpose because you're just selling out to making more money and working harder, and you feel like you're compromising on your why of why you do this. And thirdly, you're not making the money that you deserve, or and you're not able to even use the money because you're not able to get away because you're enslaved by time, and your relationships are going to be suffering. So if you can put this process in place because you have a clear segment and a clear problem that you solve with a clear solution and an outcome that you're confident you can deliver on every single time, you're going to have a very scalable practice as you nail this particular segment that you've chosen. And then fifthly, you start riding bikes on Wednesday afternoons with doctors as part of your marketing, right? You can automate the whole thing where you just focus on this part. And it turns out that it's the possibility that the very thing you came into this webinar not liking, which is marketing, could be the very thing that you enjoy the most. Or you're like Mark Ewart, who just organizes fancy dinners and he just likes to eat fancy food and treat people to fancy food, have a great time where the food and wine are flowing, and he just gets to do it all as the host and talk about his vision for helping people solve their complicated problem. And maybe the very thing that you didn't like, which was marketing, becomes the part of your business that you love the most. And that queen bee role that you thought that you were the only person that could do it, you actually teach someone else how to do that queen bee role. And the very business that was once dependent on you is now able to run on autopilot without you. I mean, that to me as an entrepreneur, I'm just like, give me more of that all day, every day. I hope that's the case for you. Okay, so that is a lot. I totally get it. We talked about these guys who are going on a journey, and you too are going on a journey, and it's the journey from A to the. That is the journey that we are on here. That's why you signed up for this webinar. That's why you're here. We're going on a journey from A to the. I want you to go from a financial advisor, right? Just another commodity where people are always worried about how much fees they're paying you. They want to pay you less. They would pay less if they could, but they can't. And instead of going from A, I want you to be the financial advisor. When you're the financial advisor, you don't go to people for business. They come to you. And you're so good because you are the only person who solves that problem for those people that gets consistent, deliverable results, that you are the person in town, sought after, and people show up excited to work with you. That's the journey that we're on. And I believe that the best way to get there is through segmentation, because the hard work truth is this, that without taking steps to segmentation after this webinar, you've got to do something about what you learned. And the reason why I emphasize it's important so much is because without it, you're going to be working too hard, you're going to be working too much, and you'll never be able to scale your practice. But the good news is that with a clear market segment, you can work less, still earn more, and will scale your practice beyond what you could have ever imagined, making the income and impact that you always wanted. My friends, this has been my topic here. Has been segmentation, the case for segmentation. I want you to become an amazing segmentologist. Thank you so much for your time. I know your time is so valuable. You're here. Have a great day.